Life is way too short to focus on all that's wrong with the world. I'm Thomas Roberts.
We got good news. We got good news, yeah. Gay good news. You don't have to choose the news. Ooh, good news, yeah. Good.
We're here for you. We love you. We see you. We hear you. We know you're there. So thank you for doing this, Tom.
You know, the very thing that everyone around you is telling you is your liability, is your service.
This is Gay Good News. Give me 30 minutes and I'll give you a rainbow.
Hey everybody, it is great to have you with me for this Thursday, August the 6th. We're already to August. I feel like I haven't seen you in a bunch of weeks, but it's only been since last Thursday, and we have a jam-packed show today. So I don't want to use our time for a lot of filler, but I do want to tell you that we got all the masks out that have been ordered, so everybody should have their masks. We still have masks in stock, so if you want a mask, you can go to GAYGOODNEWS.com and order one. We'll get it out to you. And today's show is incredible. You know, the stories of teen suicide, LGBTQ at-risk youth suicides, they are underreported, and we know why. There are many stories that go unreported nowadays because of what is covered, what sucks up all the oxygen in the room. And these stories are important. 10 years ago, we had this rash of suicides, teen suicides, kids as young as 11 being bullied to death, suspected of being gay, or they acted gay, or maybe they even acted out on it. The situation with Tyler Clementi, freshman, 18 years old at Rutgers. His roommate set up a webcam and caught him, in an intimate moment with another man. That sent Tyler to his death. That cyberbullying that happened from there on devastated Tyler. And it set a ripple effect in motion that changed lives forever. That of the Clementi family. Jane Clementi is a friend, someone that I've really admired for a long time. And it'll be 10 years coming up next month that Tyler was lost. But the Clementi family is amazing. They are absolutely firm in their efforts and their beliefs that what they're doing is saving kids' lives. And there are vulnerable kids out there all across the world that really need exactly what they're doing. So say hi to my friend Jane. It is a real honor and privilege to bring to Gay Good News a friend, a person that I've known for a long time now, and I support wholeheartedly, Jane Clementi. It's also her birthday this week, so we wish you a Gay Good News happy birthday, Jane.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is double 31.
Yes. Unfortunately or fortunately, whichever the case may be.
Well, how did you celebrate?
Quietly at home due to COVID, for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, my middle son came over on Sunday, and my older son, who's in Florida, weathering COVID there with his husband, they called and we Skyped for maybe an hour. That was it.
Well, I know online, because you're the CEO of the Tyler Clementi Foundation. There's an ongoing charitable tally taking place. I think the goal right now, is it still $4,000?
Yes, it is 4,000 currently, but I hope we blow that away. And one of my board members did one year, and he got over 7,000. And I'm thinking it's like maybe a little competition, right?
You've got to beat that.
I know, really.
Yeah.
All right. Come on.
We're going to get on that, and we will help you get there to that benchmark and hopefully beyond. How about that? Because that would be the best birthday gift ever.
Right. And not only to give to our donation on the Facebook fundraiser, but also some of our programs like pledging to be an Upstander. That's really near and dear to my heart.
Well, and as it should be. I mean, you were, for folks that need a refresher, we're coming up on the 10-year mark when we lost Tyler, and there were a rash of teen suicides, LGBT youth taking their lives. Are you surprised? By how much you've been able to accomplish?
absolutely surprises me because this is not something who I was prior, and this is a whole new world for me. And it wasn't really spontaneous. I barely could say, okay, move ahead for years. I remember talking to you pretty early on, which was almost 2 years after Tyler had died. And still, I was only hearing like every third word you were saying. So it was really hard to put things together to make movement. I would say more things shifted maybe starting after 2015 for me, where I could put things together. And it's
No, I
still,
remember that interview. We were standing on a riser in the studio at MSNBC. Your husband was there.
yeah. And I was like, oh, he stopped talking. Oh no, it's my turn to talk. What did he say? I'm sorry.
You did great. You did great.
It was a really hard time.
Well, this is a terrible, horrible subject to have to even bring up, and for you guys to live through this, but to turn it into something almost magical and so memorable, but with change. You save so many lives that you may not even be aware of, and it touches my heart because I attempted to take my own life as a teen, and because of knowing about LGBT confusion, youth still face it today. We're not covering it today because everything gets sucked up by one person in terms of news coverage, and these are still important stories to cover, especially when we think about cyberbullying and how schools are going to have to rethink how students are going to learn coming up in the new semesters or new school years. Is that a concern that you think is going to be a problem with kids learning from home?
Well, I do think maybe the more time that they spend behind their screens, the more isolated people feel being in their homes, I think will definitely compound some of the issues for sure. Absolutely.
And so the work that you do, you have the center is at Rutgers, correct?
We do have a center at Rutgers, but that's separate. And then we have the Tyler Clementi Foundation.
Right.
And at the Tyler Clementi Foundation, we're working more towards prevention. Our mission is to prevent online and offline bullying in schools, workplaces, and faith communities. So one of our very first initiatives is to turn passive bystanders into active upstanders. And we started a 1 million Upstander movement in 2018. So it's going to end this fall, looking forward to the 10th anniversary, as you said, and getting lots of media attention. And that's one of the things, as I'm talking to someone who is in the media, I at first was numb to it, but as I woke up, I was very grateful for the media attention. I mean, having the people camped out on our street was not something that I would ever wish on anyone or think is positive. But I do think that by having all the media attention, we started a lot of conversations. And that's why we started the foundation, because we wanted to continue those conversations, to create safe spaces.
Well, and you have a celebration every year, a gala. I know I've been the MC a couple of years.
I believe in this foundation, and I believe in what the Clementi family is doing. I started covering the story for Tyler and what happened with Tyler and what was going on with his family and the epidemic of bullying in this country and suicides that were happening when I was working on my 11 a.m. program for MSNBC. It resonated with me because as a young man growing up gay and as also someone who at the age of 15 attempted suicide, I know what this is like. I know what it's like to go through this. I know why we need good people in our lives. I know why we need good role models. I know why we need upstanders.
We knew we wanted to use the media attention, but we didn't know what our mission was going to be. And then because of some of those conversations right there in that room, that's where we found our mission and found our purpose. It gave me purpose and helped bring my life back together, which I'm so grateful for.
Well, and I was reading a New Yorker article from a couple of years ago, and I was just refreshing, we haven't gotten to physically see each other in a couple of years for sure. But it talked about that you've suffered your own dark path journeys, over these last 10 years where you've contemplated just wanting to go to sleep. And so I imagine there must be times, Jane, where you're just exhausted of all of this.
Kind of a bittersweet situation. I enjoy meeting people. I think Tyler is still bringing much into my life. He continues to be part of it by allowing me to meet all these new people, meet people like you. I would never have met you in my life. So many wonderful people through the gala choruses. I don't know if you're aware, but the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus created a beautiful suite of music called Tyler's Suite. It started out very small and eventually grew to 9 movements, telling Tyler's story, but a different way, you know, telling a little bit about who he was and how he had a great sense of humor, and he rode a unicycle and he played his violin while riding on the unicycle, to the brother's voice based on a article that James had written for Out magazine. And then my husband Joe composed a poem, and they put that in as the father's voice. And then the librettist had talked with me and put together a voice for me. So it's a beautiful piece of music. If you have never heard it, go to our website. There's links to it, or go to YouTube, and it's out there.
We'll make sure that there's a link here for everybody to just easily click and find.
I don't know how many choruses have sung it right now. I should keep a running track, but it's been sung all over the United States. It was sung in Lincoln Center, and it was sung in Ottawa, Canada last year. So it's out there and it's beautiful.
I mean, the ripple effect of your strength and heartbreak and just sheer determination is major. You guys cracked the surface and did a great job, and I just so admire the fact that you've been able to sustain this and in a healthy way, and I hope for you it's not too hard, and I can't imagine that it would ever get to a place where you could say it's easy.
It's not easy, especially because I'm not a public speaker. So in that sense, I don't even enjoy these conversations that are taped. But at least it's a little better because I'm looking at my computer as opposed to that big black box, that camera. I don't like that camera. But also sharing the story and going back to that day is not. It shakes me to the core every time. Yeah. But I know that there is purpose to it, and I know that there is hope from it. And I do believe behavior can be changed. And if we can share what happened to Tyler and that can change someone else's life, then that makes it worthwhile.
And importantly for you, how is your faith? Because faith is important to you. And I know that you believe that it's also important to discuss that when it comes to our LGBT youth.
Absolutely. My faith is extremely important. I had faith prior to Tyler's death, but I had no idea how important having God in my life was until Tyler's death. And God has been with me along this journey and calling me to this place and to this mission. I do believe that strongly, and I know people who don't have faith have a hard time with that, but I believe that strongly. But I also know that we were in a very conservative church community, and that church community was very harmful to Tyler. And I realized that after Tyler had passed, by things that I found that Tyler had written, and by meeting many other people from the LGBTQ community. And it has opened up a whole new world. And for me, as a person of faith, to have someone misuse scripture as a weapon to harm someone else, or to make someone feel less than or broken, or just separated from God as a sinner, is just heartbreaking to me. And that's part of a good, strong part of our mission. And we are working currently in our True Faith Doesn't Bully part of our organization. We're reaching out to this key members of the Southern Baptist Conference to show them the harm, the great harm that their misguided teachings and traditions are causing into people's lives, and to show them God's love, unconditional love, and making sure that
they're most receptive when they come out of the closet.
Yeah, well, that's true. Or when their children do.
I do want to get you real fast, though, to talk about the bill that was introduced last year. It's kind of stalled right now, correct?
Correct. It's actually been introduced and reintroduced every year since, I believe, 2011, or right in the fall, right after Tyler passed, to create safe spaces on college campuses and universities, making sure there are policies in place, making sure there's counseling available for both the aggressor as well as the target, and making policies readily available. Like if one university creates a really great policy, putting it out there so that other universities and colleges can share it. That's the grant system that they have part of it. And this last time it was reintroduced 2 years ago, it was had a cyberbullying component to it as well, creating safe space online. But unfortunately, it doesn't go anywhere, which is why I think not only being an upstander is someone who intervenes when there is a bullying situation happening in front of them, but it's also someone that goes to the voting polls and votes for political people that will support bills like the Tyler Clementi Higher Education Act or the Safe Schools Act or the Equality Act. We need these protections available to create a safe community for us, and unless we get the right political people in place, we won't. So it's not only intervening, reporting, or reaching out in a situation, but it's going to the voting booth, it's supporting businesses that are high on the HRC equality, corporate equality index and such. So there are a lot of components to being an upstander.
Being an upstander, just show up everywhere. Show up for
be
those.
Very observant, watch what's happening, and be a good listener too.
I'm just curious though, is there forgiveness in your heart at all for the students involved with cyberbullying and instigating what ultimately led to Tyler's death?
I do believe I've been working on that, and I do have that capacity. I've not seen those people either. So I think it's one thing to intellectualize forgiveness. It's another thing to actually be confronted with it. But those students were not the first people on my list to forgive. I had a lot of other people above them. I had to forgive God, because why did this happen? I mean, there could have been intervention at many points. I had to forgive myself too, because why didn't Tyler call us? Why couldn't we have intervened? Why couldn't we have kept him safe? Obviously, to me, that's a parent's first priority, is to keep your children safe. And I couldn't do that. And then I had to forgive Tyler too, because why did he do what he did? Why didn't he call for help? And if not from me, from Joe, from James and Tyler had come out to each other in the summer, which I had not known until many years after. So I don't know. There were a lot of people to forgive. The students were low on my bucket list.
Well, Jane, I think you have a heart of gold. I love you. I support you wholeheartedly. And I guess I can tell everybody, right? I get to be the MC this year, right?
Yes. And that's the thing I wanted to say, is we're not doing a ULC per se because of COVID, obviously. So we're doing an event online in the cyber world. And we're going to have a panel discussion with several of the Queer as Folks cast. And you're going to be the MC. And I'm so excited. I can't wait.
I'm delighted.
I can tell you who they are if you want to give a... So far, Michelle Clooney has agreed. She's my dear friend, and she actually is the one who reached out. Scott Lowell is actually quite lovely. We had a great conversation. We're going to put you in on that soon. And then Peter Page, Sharon Glass, and Robert so far. And we may even try to see...
Sharon Glass, Cagney, and Lacey. That's what I think of. That takes me back.
And we might reach out and try to incorporate the British Queer as Folk cast as well, but we're not sure. We have to pursue that. That's the unknown. So stay tuned. Go to our website.
We've got a Brit on this episode. So let's Thomas Beattie to, because British people all know each other, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, just like we all know each other, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll get there. Well, Jane, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I support you. I admire you, your entire family, and thank you for being so generous with your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
She really is fantastic. So, and I do remember this interview that we had. Tyler passed in 2010. It was September. And by the next year, that October, they had started the Tyler Clementi Foundation. And in the studios at MSNBC, we had this middle section where it was on a riser and you stand. And Joe and Jane came in and they were nervous, but they were excited. We had done these kind of kitchen table discussions about how to cultivate this organization, how to sustain this organization. And it's almost 10 years later. But just that's what I was worried about back then. And I'll be honest, when they asked my opinion, I was worried for them about sustaining something like this. And boy, oh boy, have they done it. They have done it. And they're amazing. And the work has saved countless lives of children. And I think it's also with Upstanders, it's encouraging kids not to be bullies, teaching kids how to be better to each other. It is very important work. And so as Jane's wish is to get the British Queer as Folk cast involved, I said, we have a Brit. We have a Brit today on the show. Thomas Beattie, who is famous. He's super handsome. And he's a pro footballer, right? And he had this 10-year incredible career. And the whole time, he had a secret that was eating him up inside. And he was so afraid because he just didn't understand everything that went along with it and what it would mean. That is until June of this year. And Thomas made a remarkable revelation. And I do like his first name very much. I'm really excited right now to introduce to you international soccer superstar, Thomas Beattie. And Thomas made big news during June Pride, and I don't know how I missed it. He actually revealed to the world that he is gay. He's part of the LGBTQ community, and he is using his platform now for the betterment of everybody. Thomas, it's great to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Also, you have a great first name.
Yes, likewise.
Thank you. So June, I think it was June 23rd, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was.
Did the ESPN essay. Why did you want to do this? Why now?
I think with everything that was going on, there was two reasons really. I mean, everything that was going on around a lot of social injustices, and I think the theme of them was about inclusion and acceptance, and so I kind of, for me, I'm quite passionate about anything that is a social injustice in general. And so that was kind of one thing I wanted to kind of show a little bit about myself and kind of change perceptions, but I also really wanted to set myself free. I mean, that was the main priority for me initially. When I started to think about, okay, maybe I can go through this and kind of tell the world who I really am. It was important for me at the stage of my life I'm in to kind of, just set myself free really, and kind of not go on this journey of suppressing or hiding or living a life to validate a group of people I've never met.
Do you feel free?
I do, yeah. I mean, I feel quite liberated. Honestly, it was strange. The first few weeks was strange because I couldn't really embrace it. It was so.
Why?
I mean, I didn't realize how far the message would spread. I didn't know how many people would resonate with it, and I didn't understand the ripple effect of how far it would go. So it was super intense in terms of the media and a lot of the press I was doing. It was super overwhelming. So I was kind of going through this period of, I'm telling my story on a daily basis, which is my life. I mean, it's a story for the people, right? But it's my life. And so for me, again, something I didn't speak about all the time. It's not definitive of who I am. So I'm not speaking about it on a daily basis ever. So for me to be speaking about it 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day, was super overwhelming for me. And after about 2 weeks, I was, so intense. After about 2 weeks, I was like, I need a break from this. But now it's kind of settled in, and I'm really happy and content with it now. So,
well, it does have to. You have to feel a certain confidence living in your own skin. You only know what you've been through. The pressures that you felt must have been enormous. I mean, you had this great, incredible 10-year pro footballer, international star, great moments, legendary moments on the field, but nobody knew that this is something that you were struggling with, and you weren't given any hints.
No, I mean, honestly, it was the early part of my career was I didn't really understand who I was. It took me a long while to kind of get, self-acceptance. That was an issue for me, really. I mean, I think no different to a lot of athletes who are currently still playing, who are in the closet. You kind of get good at suppressing things and living these two separate worlds. But I didn't really understand at a younger age. The last thing I thought I was gay. I really didn't. And I think that was, now I kind of analyze it a little bit. And I think looking at where I was from and the environment I was exposed to, I never really saw examples of anyone who I could resonate with. I think in some societies, it's still very taboo. Where I'm from in England, the north of England, it's very, as I was growing up, it was very unspoken about. And the reputation of people who were in the LGBT community was not a good one. And it was very misunderstood and misguided and misrepresented, I think, as well. I think the only examples I ever saw was, the very flamboyant type of person within that community, which again, I've met some of them and they're amazing and so much fun, and they are who they are, and I've got so much respect for them for having that courage to live authentically. But
well, then I think for folks like that, that's just them, right? That's exactly how they live.
Right.
And there's a shield other people can put up and blend in and hide in plain sight.
Yeah, I'd never really, I didn't comprehend I was that, because I just couldn't resonate with that. I am a pretty typical English lad in many ways. And so for me, it was, I never really had any examples of that. I had examples in other areas, but for that one part of my life, I didn't. So the last thing I ever thought I was gay.
Right.
And
now, did it ever cross your mind while playing pro, and you saw examples of homophobia or anything like that, that would have also helped you try to convince yourself that that's not you?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, obviously within sport in general, but football is quite ruthless, and it's a very masculine, physical sport. And so typically the people who watch it are in that mold typically. And so there's a certain role that people, I guess, expect you to play. And so, yeah, I mean, you obviously hear certain words coming from the crowd, and not necessarily within the dressing room, to be honest, but you hear it from the crowd. And as I started to kind of get a little bit older, when I knew who I was kind of comprehending on my days I might be gay, that kind of scared me. I mean, the fear of that was super overwhelming, and it definitely pushed me into a place of, okay, we lock this in a box, throw away the key, and yeah, I don't need to analyze that one right now. We'll give it another year. And it just kind of, kept going.
Do you think that professional football is ready for an active out player?
Until recently, I really didn't. Now, maybe so. The reception I've had has been unbelievable, to be honest. I've been so overwhelmed with it. And I think now there's these conversations at the high level, and they're starting to look at reasons as to why that's not a conducive environment. Because I think from the perspective of the people who make the decisions around, the governing bodies around football, with all due respect to them, I don't know the answer to this, but I think they're all straight, and so I think it's very difficult for them to comprehend. And so I think a lot of them look at the environment and say, well, we think it's great, we think it's really conducive, and then you look and say, well, clearly it isn't, because there's no active players who are out, and there's been none in the last 30 years. So clearly there needs to be more that needs to be done.
So do you feel that I mean that this type of service now, you know, your example, your story, and just representation in general of you showing up to make a difference, is that where you want to start? I mean, trying to help with, you know, players that are actively in leagues that don't feel comfortable telling managers and teammates.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me outside of setting myself free was just honestly increasing visibility to other sexual orientations. I think, I mean, it's only one part of the journey, right? There needs to be action afterwards. But I think within some societies, football being one of them, especially in England and Europe, I think just adding more examples of sexual orientations and almost normalizing, if you will. I mean, I hate using that word, but you know, the more examples of it that there are, then you know,
Right.
the more familiar people become with that, right? We typically feel what we don't know. So the more you become accustomed to something, the more people start to understand what it is. So I think visibility was important for me.
Yeah, or just respect things on an equal footing.
Right.
An equalization value that something's not less than. And I think certainly for the LGBTQ community, whether it's been through media or journalism, representation through the decades wasn't always there. You know, things have changed. Things have gotten a lot better, but we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, definitely. I think, strangely enough, since I was very against doing this because I was so scared of the reception I would receive. But since I've done it, I've kind of gone from being in the closet to then almost being an ally. And now I really consider myself more of an advocate, and I want to be that. I aspire to be that. The way I live, the way I conduct myself, and hopefully the weight of my words. But I think I've become quite passionate about being more proactive in that environment, because I think it really is easy to, you know, it's easy to sit in silence and kind of just go through and accept who you are, but just live your own life. And I think sometimes when you have a platform and a voice, I almost feel like not an obligation, but I think if you feel that way inclined, I think there's things that can be done that you can help with, and I feel empowered to do that right now. So yeah. Do
you think if you were still playing, you would feel the same way? I mean, your career got interrupted and shortened by an injury. Do you think you'd feel the same way if you were still actively playing?
No, I don't. Actually, I don't. I definitely don't. To be honest, I really do think now, since I spoke about my story and my journey, I think there's things that have come to life or come to fruition, which I've been, really delighted with. They've started to talk about making it illegal in the UK to have homophobic slurs at games, which I mean should be anyway. I mean, it should have been done years ago. But the biggest fear from an athlete is not the 20 players in the dressing room; it's the 99% of society who are stood outside waiting for you to come out, right? So I think now these are these steps which are being taken, which I'm really happy about. I don't think these were even conversations. And so I'm glad that my coming out has kind of ignited a lot of these conversations. And I think a lot of players who are currently playing, they'll kind of see, okay, it's been okay for him. He's had great reception. He's had great support. Things are starting to be done now. I think there's probably a little bit of hope within the sporting community that one day these things will be implemented. Again, it's a process, right? And it's not going to happen overnight.
So have you heard from active players that may have come to you in a moment of honesty to say, I'm gay, but I'm not comfortable with coming out?
Yeah, a lot in football, a lot in various sports, in various countries as well. And so that, for me, that's been quite good. It's been a bit difficult and a bit overwhelming trying to, I think when you put yourself out there as a voice for support, it can be quite difficult when, there's a lot. I didn't understand how many people would resonate with that. now I do. And so I understand the importance of the struggles that I went through, and kind of, you know, I understand how important it is to make sure that this doesn't continue. You know, I would hate for us to kind of, as a society within sport and outside of sport, to just kind of go like this for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So yeah, I'm hopeful that these things will start to kind of take flight a little bit. But
It really
again,
is the irony of the irony of isolation that, you know, we as individuals feel, you know, coming to have a healthy respect for our sexual identities, that when we do come to terms and come to confidence with it, people out there need it. You know, people out there need to see that there are people like them, and then it, you know, only reinforces the fact, yeah, you were never alone to begin with.
Yeah,
you never had to feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we've been in lockdown over in Singapore, and we was in it for like 3 months. And again, mentally, I think mentally, so these are more than physically the big challenges. Obviously, you miss things like the gym and stuff physically, but mentally, these are difficult challenges. I think isolation and loneliness is, you know, it's tough. These are really difficult things to go through. And I think, you know, when people have been in this period of isolation for 2 and 3 and 4 months, I think they realize how difficult it is. But I think there's a part of it where you can kind of be like, well, think how it is for being in the closet for 30 years and how isolated that is.
Yeah, it does a mental number on you.
Exactly, right. Mentally, you're not physically in lockdown, but mentally you are. You go through these periods of time where you don't talk to people about these things, you don't tell them about them, so you are literally in a mental lockdown.
Yeah,
and it's not helpful.
The only voice you have in your head is the nasty one, that's, you know, saying bad things to you, because, you know, you're your own worst enemy, you know, in a situation like that. I mean, I found that for me, just telling one person, it was a snowball effect of gaining confidence, but saying it out loud to one person, you know, that I really trusted, and then it kind of grows from there, you know.
Yeah.
Until you can end up in an international, you know, PR spread and tell the world like you did.
Yeah, it's gone too far. It's gone too far now. No, I mean, my friends in England, they would call me and be like, I'm sick of seeing you in the newspapers, like, daily basis. And I'm like, oh my, I didn't realize how far that would spread. But yeah, it's definitely.
But this is good razzing. This is, you know, good.
Yeah. It's just a bit of banter.
The reaction that you feared from important former teammates or managers, fans, that's not the reception you got.
No, honestly, the complete opposite. I've had amazing support from coaches, teammates, friends, you know, people I've never even met, but, you know, who have watched me play. Or I didn't realize how far that message would spread, but I couldn't have been happier with the reception, really. And so I sit back and think, oh my days, I should have done this sooner. But
right, again, I'm sure your DMs are just filling up.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I need a new phone.
I'll make sure to put up your Instagram handle so everybody can go and check out the IG for themselves. It's a good feed, people. It's a very good feed.
It's very shameless. I'm going to put that out there now.
People will call it shameless. But what's next? I mean, what's next for you? You're an entrepreneur. You've got a lot of business things going on. But, you know, for how you said you are standing in the, you know, the shoes of an advocate, what's next for you?
I think outside of my professional life, you know, running businesses, I think on that side of things, I really want to continue the discussions at the higher level in terms of the PFA, the governing body with professional sport in England, and the Premier League, and at the national level, and, you know, up at Parliament. And so these conversations have kind of been taking place, and there's been discussions around these things, which I want to continue to contribute to. Again, as somebody who's lived through that journey, and as somebody within the LGBT community, I feel like I can represent that. and I can tell that story from the side of somebody who is gay. Again, right? So I think I look at some of the people involved in these communities and these groups of people who are the voice of change and equality, and trying to empower things within sport. And I don't see many LGBT people within the communities, and so I almost feel like it's a little bit of it's unrealistic to really kind of get a real understanding of how that is from the inside, from a player's perspective, and just in general. So I think having that dialogue with these people has been great so far. Some of the things that have been implemented have been great, and yeah, I hope to continue to do that for as long as I can.
Well, Thomas, we are cheering you on from here in the States, big time, and especially because you're doing such great work in a genuine, heartfelt way. I mean, it's meaningful, and I think it comes through really well. Plus, your name is Thomas. It's perfect.
Always helps, right?
Always helps. Very trustworthy.
Yeah.
Thomas Beattie, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Thomas, for having me. Appreciate that. Yeah, let's see you soon.
All right, so yeah, another cool Thomas exists in the world, and he's such a nice guy, so willing to talk and go there on these really personal and important questions that he had to battle with for a long time in the public eye, and now he wants to use his experience and his story to make a difference with FIFA, with players that, as you heard there in that interview, that have come to him and confessed or bared their souls about secret sexuality, and that they do not want to expose themselves or feel confident enough. He said that in the locker rooms that things are cool, but it's the stands, it's the fans that'll yell homophobic things at players. But yeah, we're going to keep following him because he's got some important work that's coming up later this year that I was kind of given the high sign about, and we are going to keep our tabs on that. Also, next week's show, I might have a different backdrop. Can't tell you why, but it might be a little different. Just a little. Now, don't forget, you can go to the website and get your masks. Fall and winter is coming. You're going to need your masks. All right. So I love you all. And just remember this, because, it's not just because it isn't happening to you, it doesn't mean that it isn't happening. I almost forgot my own tagline. Anyway, it's been one of those days. Bye, everybody.